Good evening, how are you doing? Another extraordinary night of Brexit politics. MPs have voted to say they don't want to leave the EU without a deal. We'll have more on that in a few seconds' time. But specific to Northern Ireland, did you clock what happened earlier today? Here's what the British government proposed in the event of a no deal. Any goods coming up from Dublin will have no tariffs on them, and yet our farmers and business leaders exporting down south, they will have to pay tariffs. That's the proposal. So the whole special status deal that was at one stage on the table for Northern Ireland, is that gone? And instead there could be a major benefit for those exporting from the south into Northern Ireland. And that only if there's no deal, of course. William Taylor, where are you, William? There you are. So you're what, a beef and sheep farmer?
That's correct,
What's your reaction to this?
It's terrible news, actually, for farmers in Southern Ireland as well as
It's just a proposal,
the UK.
by the way, and it's an event of a no deal.
Oh, I appreciate that, yes. But it's something that we cannot tolerate, and we have been saying from our farm organisations in recent weeks that we must have a situation where we have a deal with the EU. It is just inconceivable that we leave without a deal. It's just not acceptable. It will devastate farming across the UK and in Southern Ireland, because there'll be no tariffs from south to north. But remember, that also opens the floodgates from Brazil and other places, which will have a downward effect on prices of beef in particular and into Southern Ireland also. So there are no winners in this scenario in the farming world.
Like, is this going to put people's lights out?
It could well do. Farmers are already on the edge. We have 25% of farming families across the UK living below the poverty line as it is. So the last thing we need is another nail in the coffin.
Jonathan Davis, evening to you. So Northern Ireland might at one stage have had special status. Who knows? Maybe we will again if Theresa May's deal eventually goes through. But the British government proposing today that no tariffs up this way, but tariffs down that way.
Theresa May, as far as I can tell, is mad. She's as mad as a hatter. She should be thrown out of office.
There's the man with a baseball cap on at 10:30 at night.
She should be thrown out of office. It shouldn't be the Tory men in grey suits coming to take her away. It should be the men in white coats. This, to me, is against the DUP, who have been voting against what she wants to happen. But this idea that no one's going to benefit from practically 90% of tariffs going down to 0%, well, clearly, everyone in this audience, everyone will benefit, because we'll have lower costs of living and lower costs of doing our business. So, this particular issue is a joke, but generally bringing tariffs down to 0 is absolutely fantastic.
Naomi?
Well, I mean, I think that's a slightly skewed view to take, because our communities survive on the basis of people having an income, being able to then go and spend their money in shops. So if you drive, for example, the farming community out of business, who shops in the local shops in those farming towns? Who pays for, who's able to keep the economy in those places that are already stretched?
Farming's one of our biggest industries in Northern Ireland.
Precisely, and it's not just farming, it's all the processors, it's agri-foods, it's all of the other stuff where, for example, we spent a lot of time developing kind of farm gate to home traceability on our foods. All of that will be lost. The standards that we expect...
let's not get into Project Fear now. No, we're not going to lose all farming in Northern Ireland.
This is Project Reality. You heard what Woody Johnson said when he was asked about what would happen if the Americans came in, and he referred to it that our farming industry was basically like a museum for farming, and what they want to do is move into their kind of mechanised farming in the States, where their standards are completely different. We could debate from here to eternity which standards are better, but we have opted for high standards, high welfare and high standards.
But how are our farmers...
And we pay slightly more for that, but that keeps our farmers in business and that keeps our communities coherent.
The British government today, this morning, proposed, Henry Riley, that no tariffs for those people living in the south of Ireland exporting stuff up to Northern Ireland. How on earth could Northern Irish farmers or any business compete with that if they didn't have the same terms?
It actually presents one of the biggest opportunities in farming since we actually joined the European Union. The Republic of Ireland exports approximately 87,000 tonnes of beef into UK market every year. It's their primary market. It's about 67% of their beef actually ends up in the UK. Under the rules that the UK has proposed, the Republic would have free access into Northern Ireland, but not into GB, whereas Northern Irish beef would have totally free access to the rest of the United Kingdom. What they're talking about is 2 lanes at ports, a green lane for Northern Irish produce on Northern Irish vehicles and a red lane for Republic of Ireland stuff that's going into GB, and they will have to make a forward declaration online. It's not a big deal, but the problem is
it's not a big deal.
In good cuts of beef, it could be 50% tariff on them.
I would feel sorry, business, Henry.
I would feel sorry for the southern farmer, but I would feel very, very good for our farmers, because it would be a boom time for Northern Irish farming. The UK imports more beef, more pork, more poultry than it exports. And the farmers that we have, and we'll talk about the benefit of...
Would Northern Ireland not be flooded with Southern Irish beef?
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't.
How
because the market couldn't be flooded. It would be sustained.
No checks in the border.
Yes, but you can only eat so much. You can only use so much. You can only process so much.
Hold on a minute. So it comes up to Northern Ireland from the south, right?
Yeah.
No tariffs.
Yeah.
And then they're not going to do any checks with it going over to GB, right?
No, they are.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
So you support a border down the Irish Sea now?
It's a border for Republic of Ireland stuff. They'll be stopping at Dublin, Holyhead, Rosslare, the heart, or Rosslare into the south as well. So it's actually very, very, very beneficial for our farmers. And it presents an enormous opportunity. And we should be actually trying to grasp it. You talk about how good...
Well, the head of the Ulster Farmers Union.
How good...
Henry.
Yes?
Ivor Ferguson, we can see his words precisely here. So here's what the Ulster Farmers Union is saying. This would drive down prices and hit producers here. It could also potentially open the door to illegal trade. Receiving these plans just over a fortnight before they could come into effect doesn't give farm or other businesses any time to prepare, and is entirely unrealistic. And if you don't want to listen to the Ulster Farmers Union, have a listen to the CBI. So the CBI have gone further. They represent business, of course. Here's what the CBI have said. The biggest change in terms of trade this country has faced since the mid-19th century being imposed on this country with no consultation with business, no time to prepare, and she goes on. Watch this. This is a sledgehammer for our economy.
This is getting to the fundamental root of the problem with the European Union. 40%.
It's the CBI, they aren't the EU.
40%
funded by the EU.
Of European Union
yes, they are.
Payments go to the agricultural sector. Can anyone truly tell me, convince me that 40% of our money should go to farmers? Now, I've nothing against farmers, but it's not right that 40%, the Common Agricultural Policy, and then you're talking about the CBI. You're quite right, I've got the figure here. 1.35 million euros went from the EU to the CBI. Secondly, the CBI is largely run by big businesses, international businesses, which the EU and big businesses, that's why the EU is set up, to look after big businesses.
Well, one big business in Northern Ireland is Bombardier, and it is saying the same sort of things, very concerned about what's happening with Brexit, and it is a very important employer in Northern Ireland, and I think it would be very remiss of us to ignore what's being said by our farmers and our business community and our voluntary sector in Northern Ireland. What can we possibly do to convince those politicians who are against that what they are doing might be the wrong way?
Stephen, just on this is absolutely crucial. First and foremost, it's not just the CBI. It's the entire business sector in Northern Ireland that is concerned about what was announced today, and concerned about Brexit, and concerned about the prospect of us crashing out. But it's also the trades unions. people who look after individuals in work. It's also the wider civic society who are concerned. We're not talking here about one sector alone, although even if we were just talking about farming, it would be a very significant part of our economy. But we're talking about, for the first time, big business, the trade unions and civic society coming together to say they're concerned, and rightly so, because what was announced today...
You're ignoring the
not,
17-odd million people.
No.
Well, you are. You're forgetting to talk about the fact that they won the referendum.
Absolutely not, Stephen. Let's be really clear about it. We know who won the referendum. What we're talking about today is what the government are presenting as a solution. And even the government have admitted today that it can only be temporary, because if we end up under WTO rules, what they propose today is illegal under WTO rules.
It's not.
It is.
It's not.
And it would have to be challenged. I want to finish with say it would be illegal for the EU to accept it in terms of any kind of reciprocation. And so what they are hoping to do is buy sufficient time while they engage in a legal tussle with the WTO in order to implement other changes down the line.
Stephen, let me come up in the audience. Guy here in the check shirt, go ahead, yeah.
Stephen, I run a small family business. We trade across the border regularly, so we do. About 70% of our online sales and over the phone sales are to people in the Republic of Ireland.
What do you sell?
We sell van accessories. It's a market with online purchases. It's a growing market because couriers are getting bigger, and we've managed to take a small family business between me and my dad and managed to grow. We have people's livelihoods on the line. This deal puts a nail in the coffin to my business.
How come?
Why would somebody from Dublin who buys stuff off us VAT-free at more competitive prices than our competitors in any other parts of Ireland, why would they buy off us when there's going to be these tariffs, when they can buy off somebody in the south of Ireland cheaper? It takes away a competitive edge that we have. We've managed to grow a small business into something that could be big.
What's your business, sorry?
We sell van accessories, roof racks, tow bars, everything. We fit out vans too.
Which can be classified as car parts, which are tariff-free in any case under WTO. So it wouldn't affect your business whatsoever. That there and the internet is a bigger influence in your business than what the EU is.
Well, you guaranteeing then that a company in the Republic of Ireland is not going to pay VAT ban off me? Why would a builder buy off me if he can't claim back the VAT?
Okay, and the guy here in the glasses, go ahead.
What surprises me is that the DUP have been talking about we don't want any divergence, we don't want anything like that. And all of a sudden today, what have we got? The biggest form of divergence at all. In fact, we can now let goods in from another country while we have to pay VAT somewhere else. That puts
This is just a proposal.
I understand that, Stephen.
But the British government have announced this today, just days away from D-Day.
But this does everything the DUP said they didn't want.
No,
it was divergence. It puts a border on it. If goods can come in without any tariff, but we've got to pay a tariff going out, and it's only applicable to Northern Ireland, then the DUP's bit about the United Kingdom being together is blown out of the water.
Well, the DUP are hoping that the Irish government will reciprocate the tariffs, right?
But we've been hoping for a deal for 2.5 years, and we haven't got one.
Liam Varadkar said they won't.
Naomi has
they can't.
Naomi has deliberately misled this audience tonight. She said that if the UK unilaterally done this, that it would be illegal. Under Section 21, under Section 21 of GATT, which morphed into the WTO, you can do it on grounds of national security if it will affect
national security. Henry, look at me, man. What's national security about selling a roof rack?
No,
absolutely not.
Because what I have tried to explain, what I have tried to explain is, that the UK can do this totally legally on the basis that we've heard all the threats from Alliance, we've heard all the threats from all the different parties in the Republic saying that if there's a hard border, there's going to be
you need to reply.
A terrorist campaign that's going to swamp Northern Ireland.
We're
going to go back to the bad old days.
Henry.
That will not happen.
Henry,
we can justify WTO on those grounds.
Henry, you're the only person that has raised terrorism. The rest of us have been talking about trade, because that's what we're here to talk about tonight. And you've had your say, Henry, and I'd like to have mine, because I think I'm owed a response when you say that I deliberately misled people. I haven't.
You did.
Under WTO rules, you have to treat all countries exactly the same way you treat any country. Once you drop your tariffs for one place, you have to do it across the board unless you have a deal with that country. So you have to negotiate individual deals. Leo Varadkar can't announce today that they will reciprocate, because in the same way when you're in the EU,
Henry, quiet!
when you're in the EU, you can't show flexibility that isn't shown within the rest of the EU.
Because Leo tells them what to do.
I'm going to go up to the back row here. Get your hand up. Go ahead, young man at the end.
Stephen, obviously we've proved, and the British government have proved, that Brexit is a hell of a lot more complex than we ever thought. Surely now's the time for a second referendum. Surely.
Why not, Jonathan? Why not let people, now that they can see how this is all unfolding, and maybe the Brexit vote will be even bigger, why not let them vote on the detail now?
Because Naomi said we're here to talk about business and trade. And you know what? I'm an economist, and Brexit is not about economics. It's about democracy. We had a vote 3 years ago from the Prime Minister David Cameron downwards, the media, the establishment, you name it. They said, if you vote to leave, you're leaving the single market, the customs union, the European Court of Justice. We will implement your decision.
And
they lied to us then, and they're still lying to us.
And you get 350 million for the NHS. Is it per week? Was that what they said? Is that truth? And if it's truth, where is it?
Where's the Civil
War?
Where's the Civil War that's going to start in 24th
The NHS is getting a great deal more than that.
Tony Blair and John Major came here and told us in Kilkeel and Warrenpoint, if we voted Brexit by the 25th of June, we'd be in civil war. Every business would move south. It was going to be Armageddon. The sky was going to fall in. It was nonsense.
And what about Turkey joining the EU? 70 million Turks taking our jobs.
They're still a candidate country.
There may be a candidate country, but they are not.
If you're a candidate for something that means you want to join.
That could be years down the line.
Go ahead.
I think
It doesn't matter years. We're talking about
we're getting
people's
very
lives.
much into the detail. I think what they're talking about in Parliament is much simpler. I think it's either in or out, and the relationship between UK and the EU has always been terrible. You know, Margaret Thatcher and exchange rate mechanism, using the euro and things like that. Do you think, and they've kind of been half in, half out?
Do you want us out or in?
I'd prefer we remained in.
Why?
Because I just think the financial benefits of Europe itself and the trade, there's 45 years worth of policies and trade's been going on for this amount of time. To untangle that is very, very difficult.
Okay, Naomi?
We actually have, as things stand, I think, a bit of a constitutional crisis facing us at the minute. We have a government that isn't in command of its own cabinet. I mean, we had whips in the Conservative Party voting against the whip that they were imposing on other people tonight. It was bizarre, and yet there will remain whips because the government is in such a fix. The truth of where we are now is that what we're looking at is a very different prospect to the one that people expected 2.5 years ago. And I think it is a democratic imperative at this point. Parliament have tried
you don't know
and
what
have
people
failed.
expected. You don't know what people voted
I know
for.
what people were told they were going to get, and none of it involved this. And if people feel, well, here's the thing, Stephen.
Why do you say not
If people
true?
think that this mess is exactly what they were sold 2.5 years ago on the side of a bus and on the posters and on the leaflets through their doors, then they can vote for it again. But I think we've departed a long, long way, and I didn't vote for it. But when I think of what people were told it was going to be like, we're a long way from there
Jonathan?
right now. I think give people the chance to reflect and make the
Let's
decision.
let
because
Jonathan
Parliament
reply to you.
clearly can't.
Jonathan.
Here.
Go on, Jonathan.
I have to repeat what I said. Everyone said, if you vote to leave, wink, wink, and on your head be it, we'll be leaving the single market, the customs
but could you
union,
get beyond that
the
point?
ECJ.
Could you get beyond that point?
There's nothing different to that. That
Okay.
is
They
Brexit.
didn't say that.
That
Michael,
is leaving the EU. Nothing else.
No. Michael Gove stood up in Parliament today. He was a Brexiteer. He argued that we wouldn't leave the single market. There were others who argued we would stay in the customs union. Some did argue we would come out of the whole thing altogether.
We had the
Others
vote.
said we would have the easiest
Naomi.
negotiations.
Jonathan, were people told?
German
Hold
car
on,
makers
let's
would be
calm down.
queuing up
Let's calm this
to
down.
beg us to stay.
Jonathan,
where are they?
Were people told, for example, and I know that Alan voted to remain, by the way, but were people anywhere told of this scenario where there would be tariff-free from the Republic up to here, but it wouldn't apply the other way? Were they told that?
Not specifically.
Right, no.
Stephen.
Is that big enough to not bring back democracy? Because John Major in Maastricht gave away most of our sovereignty, and then Gordon Brown gave away the rest of our sovereignty without the people having a chance to vote.
Okay.
When we had a chance to vote, they're taking it away from us.
All right, Jane Morris.
We were sold a pup. Leavers were sold a pup. And
It's not true.
It is absolutely true.
I just told you what we were told.
Can you tell me what a pup is then? Because I don't even know what... They said Brexit means Brexit, and we still don't know what Brexit means.
That's Theresa May. She's a Remainer.
Thank you. Can I say another thing?
Theresa May is a Remainer.
Can I say we still don't know what Brexit means? Can I
Yes,
say
we do.
What about
We're
the
all
young
mic'd up.
people?
There's no need to
Hold on.
screech.
What about the
I'm furious.
You talk about democracy. All we're asking of people's vote is more democracy. To let young people who couldn't vote back then...
It's less
to let them
democracy.
vote now.
We had the democratic
Can
vote.
I ask, what are you afraid of? If you think it's a good idea,
But
then
Jim-
maybe they'll
but
vote
Jim,
no.
It's such a cheap shot. We had the
cheap shot.
vote, and it's because of Remainers. 3 years later, we haven't yet left.
Actually, it is.
And this, hold on,
Isn't
now hold on,
because
hold on, no,
Brexiteers-
now hold on. So the anger that Jonathan is manifesting tonight, is articulating tonight, this is what a lot of people outside of the political bubble is saying you should be afraid of, that when people have that democratic integrity taken away from them, that vote was special to them, 17 odd million of them voted,
Yes.
and now you and Jane are trying to overturn it. They were too stupid or didn't know enough
no, Stephen,
or
that's
weren't
not
told
your-
enough.
Can I
Yeah,
then, I
but
need to
that
respond
anger's
to that.
real.
No, I'm not, well, I don't know if his anger's real or not, but I think that there is real anger out there. I don't doubt that for a minute. Because I hear it every day. What I'm concerned about is how angry will the people be who voted to leave?
Welcome to the Naomi Long show.
When we leave, and we end up in a worse situation economically, when they end up poorer than they were to start with, when they end up with their farms going to the wall and their communities destroyed, because that could happen. So what
It might not happen. What if they end up better
what I'm
off?
saying,
What if?
Stephen, is why not let
All right.
people take a decision now when they know what's
Frank-
on the table,
Frank-
when they know what Brexit actually looks like? And one last thing,
No,
it
I need to
wasn't-
bring Frank
this is
in.
important. It
all important.
It wasn't Remainers who scuppered Theresa May's deal. Brexiteers wouldn't vote for it.
It wasn't
They are
Brexit.
the people who took it off the table. It's the only way to have a managed
Okay,
Brexit,
Frank Shivers.
which is what we were
Frank.
promised.
Stephen, I think the biggest threat to the economy, and
You're a businessman, right?
as a business person and speaking to the business community, the biggest threat that we have to our economy and jobs and business in Northern Ireland is the uncertainty. So I think there's a general consensus within the business community, get on with it. No matter what happens, just get on with it. Get out, and we'll deal with what the fallout is, because that's what
Get
businesses
out no
do.
matter what.
No, that's not what the business
To be honest, no, I'm
community said.
sorry, it is. Because what's actually happening, we have businesses at the moment who are having negotiations, 25% of their employees, delay them off at various things. There's uncertainty. Nobody's investing in their business. Nobody's moving forward. It's a very difficult time. And as we see in Stormont, the politicians will still get their salary, but unfortunately the business community don't. So they need to really.
But you're a
go
Brexiteer.
forward.
You essentially want us just to get on with it.
I think there's a level of frustration within the business community that it's going on and on and on. And who do you believe?
Well,
one side says this, the other side says that. I truly believe that Theresa May's deal for Northern Ireland was a good one for the economy in Northern Ireland.
There was also, and I'd like to get your reaction to this, there was a vote tonight. This is what happened tonight, right? In which MPs ruled out no deal Brexit in any circumstances, right? In any circumstances. So that's what the MPs decided, the majority of them in the House of Commons. That's not legally binding, and big Brexiteers like Jacob Rees-Mogg, within seconds, they were out saying that the law trumps Parliament. Let's have a look.
We are ruled by law, not through arbitrary motions in the House of Commons. The law still says we leave on the 29th of March 2019. That's both EU law and UK law. That isn't changed by today's motion.
And here's where this gets really interesting for us in Northern Ireland. The senior government minister, Michael Gove, he warned today that a no deal could mean direct rule back here in Northern Ireland.
We, in the circumstances that House has voted for no deal, would have to start formal engagement with the Irish government about further arrangements for providing strengthened decision-making in the event of that outcome. And that would include the very real possibility of imposing a form of direct rule.
What would direct rule do for stability and peace in Northern Ireland, Henry?
I think it would be the best thing that we could have at the minute. We have an assembly that is totally dysfunctional. All our politicians seem to be just want to play games with Northern Ireland. I know where I come from, and I know many rural communities. Our roads are falling apart. Out of ours is deteriorating. There's so many things that need done, and the money's there to do it. But because there's no decision makers, we can't get those important decisions done.
You're a Remainer, right?
Yeah.
But what about the prospect of direct rule back in Northern Ireland?
I think at the minute that is not a certainty, and the certainty that we are facing now is that on the 29th of March by law we are due to leave the European Union. And I think one thing that hasn't been mentioned this evening are the hundreds and thousands of young people who are living in Northern Ireland who are facing a future of massive uncertainty. And I don't believe that a second referendum is undemocratic. I think I work with young people who voted to leave and have now changed their minds, because it is their future that is on the line. It is their lives that are going to be impacted most by this, and they deserve to have the right on what their future is going to look like.
Go ahead.
One of the reasons, well, there have been many reasons why people voted to leave during the 2016 referendum, and many of those reasons were things like British sovereignty, the common agricultural policy, common fisheries policy, but none of these have changed. So why would a second referendum produce a different result?
Naomi, is Michael Gove leveraging there? Is he using Northern Ireland as a political football, introducing the prospect of direct rule all of a sudden? He knows what reaction there's going to be in this country, and indeed from Sinn Féin, for example. Michelle O'Neill's already been out tonight.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, if MLAs like myself don't want there to be direct rule, then we need to get back to storming and do our jobs. It's that simple. I mean, there's no way that the current situation can continue, and we've been really clear about that. We've put forward potential solutions to try to get the Assembly up and running. I think it would be helpful if we did have the Assembly up and running, particularly around this current time, to try to offer advice and support to businesses and others as we go through this massive change. But the reality is that we can't go on indefinitely without government. I don't think that threatening people with direct rule is the way to go about it, because I don't think
that's what he's doing?
Well, I don't know what he's doing, to be quite honest. I don't think the government knows what they're doing. I think it's just grasping at any passing straw at this stage. But the reality for us here is that what we need to do is we need to get a decision quickly. Tomorrow they're going to vote on whether or not they're going to ask for an extension to the Article 50 period, and they're making that, the government want to make that conditional on bringing that deal back a third time.
Right.
And I have to say, it's not often that I agree with Frank, but I agree with them. I think that Theresa May actually negotiated a pretty good deal in terms of the withdrawal agreement. It wasn't going to be our future arrangement, it was going to be the stepping stone to get us out. And even though I'm opposed to Brexit, I would have banked that deal in order to make sure that we didn't end up in the chaos we're in now.
We will talk about this a lot more. We will be talking about this a lot more. The Top Table Show, it's coming back. There will be many programmes on BBC Northern Ireland talking about Brexit. In the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, give our guests a round of applause. Thank you very much. Thank you. Right.